The first night in the new house, Ava assumed her son was simply afraid of sleeping alone. Children always found reasons to fear unfamiliar places, new shadows, new sounds, strange ceilings above unfamiliar beds. After everything Eli had been dragged through over the last year, the divorce, the move, the endless tension between parents who no longer knew how to speak without hurting each other, it would have been stranger if he hadn't been anxious. So, when he stood quietly in his bedroom doorway, holding his faded dinosaur plush against his chest, and told her the closet door needed to stay cracked open at night, Ava barely looked up from the box she was unpacking. "That's fine," she said distractedly, pulling folded towels from cardboard. "A little light from the hallway might help." Eli didn't answer immediately. When she finally glanced toward him, his small face looked oddly serious beneath the soft glow of the bedside lamp. "Not because of the dark," he said. She smiled faintly. "Then why?" His eyes shifted toward the closet. The door stood open only an inch, revealing a thin seam of darkness between hanging clothes and shadow. "It breathes better that way." Ava gave a short laugh. "The closet breathes?" Eli nodded once as though the answer were obvious. "When it's shut too long, it starts sounding sick." Children imagined impossible things all the time, especially at 6 years old. Imaginary friends, monsters in vents, faces in wallpaper. Her therapist warned her that stress and instability could make children fixate on unusual ideas while adjusting to new environments. Ava kissed the top of his head, left the closet cracked open, and told herself not to overthink it. The house itself already made enough noises to keep anyone awake. It was old in the way neglected homes often were in Monroe Bay, where damp coastal air settled into wood until the walls seemed permanently swollen with moisture. Pipes knocked softly at random hours. The floorboards groaned without warning. Somewhere beneath the kitchen, water dripped with maddening irregularity. At 2 a.m, she woke to the sound of movement in the hallway. For a moment, she thought someone entered the house. She slipped from bed and stepped into the darkness. The hallway carried that stale nighttime stillness old houses collected after midnight, where every shadow looked deeper than it had during the day. Eli's bedroom door stood partially open. As she approached, she realized the closet door inside his room had widened several more inches. Eli remained asleep beneath his blankets, one arm hanging lazily over the side of the mattress. She entered slowly, feeling ridiculous for checking the closet. The next evening, she accidentally shut the closet completely while vacuuming Eli's room. The reaction she got from him unsettled her far more than the strange warmth had. The moment Eli noticed the closed door, all the color drained from his face. "You shut it?" Ava frowned. "Honey, it's just a closet." "You weren't supposed to do that." There was no childish whining in his voice, no tantrum, only genuine panic. He rushed across the room and grabbed the knob with both hands, pulling the door open several inches before stepping back again. Almost immediately, his shoulders relaxed. Ava stared at him. "Eli." He kept his eyes fixed on the darkness inside the closet. "It doesn't like being trapped." That night, the rain started around midnight. Water tapped steadily against the windows, while wind pressed softly against the siding outside. Ava lay awake, listening to the storm, and trying not to think about how isolated the house suddenly felt compared to their old apartment. Then she heard it. At first, she mistook the sound for Eli sleeping. It was a slow, rhythmic breathing that drifted faintly through the hallway. Finally, she climbed out of bed and followed the sound toward Eli's room. The sound stopped the instant she entered. The next morning, she asked Eli where he'd gotten the idea that the closet could breathe. He stirred cereal around absently while cartoons flickered across the television in the other room. It told me, Eli, closets don't talk. It doesn't use words. Eli glanced toward the hallway as he spoke, and for the briefest moment, Ava had the terrible feeling that something beyond the kitchen could hear them. That afternoon, she bought a nightlight and spent nearly an hour online researching auditory hallucinations in children. By evening, exhaustion had finally started dulling the sharp edges of her anxiety. Stress explained everything. New house, new routines, lack of sleep. She repeated those explanations to herself constantly. Then, while brushing her teeth that night, she noticed the thin metal hallway grate vent flexing inward slightly before easing back out again. Then came 3 knocks echoing from Eli's room. She dropped the toothbrush into the sink and hurried down the hallway. She shoved the bedroom door open, and Eli sat upright in bed, staring toward the closet. "You made it nervous," he whispered. Ava crossed the room immediately and yanked the closet door open. Nothing. Only darkness and hanging clothes swaying slightly as though disturbed by a recent movement. She slammed it shut hard enough to rattle the frame. "Enough!" Eli burst into tears. "You're hurting it!" The doorknob began to rattle. Then she heard wheezing behind the door, as if something enormous struggled for air in a confined space. Ava backed away slowly, pulling Eli against her chest as the walls around them groaned softly. A picture frame in the hallway tipped sideways. Somewhere downstairs, cabinet doors creaked open one after another. The house itself sounded alive. Every instinct in her body screamed at her to run, but her legs refused to move. She continued to stare at the closet while the sound behind it deepened. Finally, she lunged forward and tore the closet door open. The back wall of the closet was gone. Instead, there was darkness stretched far beyond the dimensions of the house, forming a narrow corridor that disappeared into impossible depth. The humid air pouring from inside smelled like wet soil and stagnant underground water, thick enough that Ava nearly gagged on it. Very far away within that darkness, something moved. And then, from somewhere deep inside the impossible corridor, a massive, unseen thing drew in a slow, trembling breath.